Hello everybody, Jamie True here, Head of Business Development at Simpled, and welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Key, a brand new podcast coming to you from the minds of Simple Tech and Smart Choice Security. My co-host, Richard, is the General Manager of Smart Choice Security, which are a locksmith based in London with locksmiths all around the country, and they do all of the installations for our products among some very fierce competitors. And our very special guest today, Alex from All Time Locksmiths, who is a reseller of Simpled Tech products and also an installer. Say hello, Alex, and say hello, Richard.
Hi.
Hello, Richard.
Fantastic.
Hello, Alex.
So,
hi, Jamie. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on board. I just wanted to say that.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. It's
appreciate it.
Really appreciate you taking the time out your very busy schedule to come on and do this with us. So I've just got a couple of questions. I think that one, I want to know, and two, perhaps the general public and the wider population of people who aren't really connected to this industry might have these questions but don't know the answers and wouldn't know who to speak to. But first of all, I'd just like to get a flavour of you and sort of where you come from and why you do what you do. So what or who got you into locksmithing originally?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Funny enough, I'm going to say me, but if you speak to other people, I'll explain the story. So basically, my brother was looking for a job. He wanted to be a carpenter. A friend of mine's dad was, runs a locksmith company, always looking for carpenters and things like that. I introduced them. Next thing you know, they started working together. A few years down the line, he decided to open up his own company and then brought me into the company and taught me. So
amazing.
It all goes around in a circle there. So somehow, yeah, exactly. But no, I would say my brother introduced me, to the whole locksmithing industry, I suppose.
Amazing. Now, how long have you been doing it now?
Since 8 o'clock this morning. No. Sorry, that's my favourite one. The customers come in, they say, "Oh, how long you been here?" I say, "Since 8 o'clock." It's the best one.
Since he had hair.
No,
Since he had hair.
Doesn't look a day over 21.
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah, no, how long? It's been about, I'd say 16, 17 years now.
Wow.
Losing track, absolutely losing track of it all.
So thanks, Alex, for that insight into your early life and how you became a locksmith. It was very, very, very interesting. One of the questions always pops into my head. You see it on the movies. You see people like entering a house within seconds. Just
with a credit card or something. Yeah.
Or a paper clip or something like that. So what's the quickest method that thieves use to pick a lock apart from kicking the door down with a size 11?
Wow. I mean, picking a lock. I mean, when was the last time you had somebody call the police and say, "I've just been picked open"? No, it doesn't happen really. They do break in. That is the quickest way. It is the noisiest way, obviously. So people normally think it happens during, nighttime. That's when people get burgled, but it's happening more and more during the day. Because obviously there's people don't expect it. They hear noises throughout the day, and you hear slightly loud noise that you wouldn't think. You think it's just the neighbors. So most people don't pick. In fact, if they do pick, I'd hire them to do the job, because even the locksmith trade is unfortunately it's a skill, and it's a dying skill, because it's difficult to pass on. You can tell people how it works, but you can't physically do it for them. But they have to practice. So if somebody's dedicated enough and they want to practice, then yeah, they'll learn how to pick it. But I can't remember. You don't see people out on the open road picking locks open to break in, unfortunately.
So are there readily available courses that you could do as a professional if you wanted to go into the locksmithing world? Yeah,
of course there are quite a few out there. Some of them are quite, it's a healthy investment because it's a career at the end of the day. So, hopefully you don't get, these burglars are going to pay £2,000-3,000 for a course to learn how to break into houses, because that's not good.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's a really key point that you mentioned. That is something I didn't really think about. Is you're right. In the daytime, if I heard a bunch of smash, or not necessarily smashing, but the sound of someone kicking a door in, and it was round the corner, I wouldn't necessarily think two things of it, because you would think, someone doing work on the house.
Somebody just done something, a bit of noise, you wouldn't think nothing of it.
No.
The worst bit is, I mean, the idea is as locksmiths, we try and slow them down. You can never stop them, so you slow them down. So the idea is, if you hear one little bang, you're going to shrug it off. But if you hear 4, 5, 6, 8, up to 10 bangs on a door, somebody eventually is going to. The whole point is they're
Yeah,
going to
what's
look
going
out the
on here?
window, they're going to see what's going on, and you're going to see somebody breaking in. And by that time, hopefully, they would have been deterred enough to run off, basically.
Fantastic. I think that's I think that's a really good point. And I definitely think that if you were to, because obviously we're looking at this transition now where a lot of people are moving on from the traditional lock and key to digital smart locks, and I mean a lot of the time it's a fantastic transition, allowing people to have a lot more control over the access of their home, who comes in, who comes out, don't have the hassle of losing keys. But do you find that there are enough steps being taken by the smart lock industry to help that deter anyone who is thinking about coming and trying to kick a door in?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. It really is a good question there, because what the steps there. Okay, so let's go back a few steps here. This whole locksmithing industry has been set up years ago. Obviously, we don't know that, right? You've got insurance rated locks, you've got insurance rated things, and the fire brigade have their side of locks where they want to be able to leave the building without keys and that kind of thing. So there's always been this conflict between the fire regulations and the insurance companies, because they don't want to pay if anything goes wrong. But when it comes to smart locks, I think that some of the early products was just to get something out there. Let's just get a smart product out, people will buy it. They didn't really think about the security aspect of it, because they didn't have steps that they had to go through to qualify. Like we have the British standard, the BS 3621 or whatever. They need to make sure that their locks met that standard. But the smart lock people didn't think that. They didn't need to make their locks any standard. So all of a sudden you had these really flimsy, really rubbishy locks, but they had all the features that people wanted. That you could remote open it, or you could use a fob or a code. So people did buy them without realizing that this actually is a bit of a downgrade on their security. I would say that was about maybe 5 years ago, but nowadays they really have, the smart locks have stepped up their game. They've come a long, long way. They do all the features that the customer wants. Being able to remote access or use it for Airbnb and stuff like that. They've got a lot better. There is actually there is a British standard coming out soon for the smart locks as well. So they will have to meet that standard to go into houses.
Fantastic, and we're really excited about that as a company. We're very excited about proving and showing that our locks are just as, if not more, secure than a traditional lock and key. Thank you for that. That was a really good insight into that question.
I didn't want to go too deep because it can get a bit, boring. But yeah, I mean, it's been happening for years, and as long as the locks do get to a good standard, secure standard, the way I see it, if I would put it on my house, then it's good enough for the general public out there. And a lot of these locks out there nowadays, a few
And the question is, do you have a smart lock on your house?
Unfortunately, not at the moment. Richard does. I know he does. But I don't, only because because I'm renting at the moment. If I was have my own property, I'd have one of the whole smart homes. Just walk into my house and know every room I've been into, it would follow me around. But that's just me.
The future, the dream. So, here's something, given the time of year that we're currently in, that I've often thought about. Is there a specific time of year? So I say this as well because there's so many connotations to this. You look at when there's a full moon, there's often a lot more a lot more craziness out in the world. Is there a specific season that is more, you're more likely to be burgled? And do you know that, and do you think why that is?
Well, I mean, without going on to the government statistics or the police records and all that kind of stuff, there's two types of years that spring to mind. This time of year, because obviously where the nights are getting longer, it's getting darker quite earlier. So obviously they got the cover of darkness. Christmas is coming. Even the criminals have got to pay for their presents somehow. They're going to be doing that kind of stuff. But also think about it. When are people most likely not to be in as well? during the summer holidays. People are going to go on holidays, so there are empty houses all across all across the country. So summer and winter, summer and Christmas time really are probably peak. I would say peak times. Because again, nobody's at home, so they think they get away with it, or they got the cover of darkness this time of year as well.
So would you say that you receive more call outs during this period to lock changes because I've been broken into, boarding up because my windows have been smashed?
No, we do definitely this time of year. The thing is as well, what I tell a lot of my customers that come into the shop sometimes is that, Christmas time coming, right? What do? They buy hundreds of thousands of pounds worth, or hundreds of pounds worth of presents underneath a tree,
I want to be in his family.
Yeah. Well, look, some of them spending more than others, but think about this: you got all those things sitting under a tree in your living room, for example, and you got a £5 lock on the back door. What do you think is going to happen? They need to spend, sometimes people don't realize that they're showing these things are right there. And don't forget, you got a big Christmas tree lighting it up, showing what's underneath. And you got £1, £5 lock on the door. It needs, some people don't think about it until it's too late.
'Tis the season to kick doors in, we might say.
Speaking of which, we got the biggest criminal coming up soon, and we need to keep him out, Mr. Santa Claus. How he gets into people's houses, we try and stop him every year, and somehow he still gets in.
Yeah, we got him on the most wanted list. He's all up on the walls in the office, isn't he?
The arch enemy of the locksmith, is the old Santa Claus.
Amazing.
So, Alex, another question that comes into my head very often is what effective ways do we have as homeowners to just protect against break-ins? Simple things. One of them that came into my head was the little window sensors we can put on the glass, but I don't know if there's others that you can suggest that are relatively cost-effective.
So many. There's so many things you can do.
Give me your top three then.
Oh, that's going to be tricky.
No pressure.
The thing is, sometimes it's just not being how to say it without offending anyone. Not being so stupid is probably the best way of it.
Common sense.
Yeah,
common sense.
You must have heard that one where they say, "Oh, you go and buy a big TV, don't leave the box outside because you're advertising to people," right? But there's so many other ones just leaving ladders lying around outside in the back garden. Somebody get on the ladder, next thing you know, they're on the roof, or they can get to the windows upstairs, which most people forget to secure the windows upstairs, and next thing you know, somebody's in the property. It's all too easy.
It's all too easy. I'm gonna. If I had an upstairs, I'd be off this podcast, locking all my windows as we speak. I've got 15 ladders out back, so.
Yeah, exactly. Chain them up or something, or do something.
Yeah, or just make them one step too short, so they can't reach.
Yeah, then the ladder falls and they sue you for damages or something. You can't win.
No, can't win.
So in terms of locks, because you were saying obviously £5 lock in the back door.
Well, yeah.
What is the standard that you would recommend people to change to?
Again, it's also some of the stuff that the insurance companies ask for as well. And on the back door, you've actually got to have lockable bolts, top and bottom. Not many people know that. When we explain this to customers, some of them accept it that we're trying to help them. Some of them think we're just trying to sell them something, but we're actually trying to cover them to make sure if anything happens, they are covered. From their insurance companies and things like that. So if you've got lockable back door bolts, lock them, use them. Don't just have them there for just to look nice. Put them on and actually lock them when you go out. Again, making sure your curtains are closed, that it's simple things. Like I said, simple things make everything a lot better. You've got 2 locks on the door, use them. Don't, people say, oh, I just went to the shops, I didn't lock the bottom one, the deadlock as it used to be. People still don't use them. So if you've got locks on the door, use them.
And I also find that obviously I speak to people on a daily basis in terms of the doors that they currently have and they want to transition to a smart lock. As a general rule of thumb, I always try and urge people to obtain a multi-point lock mortise. And the way I explain this is, in my head, given the fact that we've already established the quickest and easiest way for a locksmith to get in is just to boot your door down.
Well, not a locksmith to get in.
Well, no, sorry, not a locksmith. Sorry, a burglar. A burglar.
Jeez,
Yeah.
Ruining the whole industry.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, to be fair, it would get you in quickly. But yes,
yeah,
so
you got to fix everything afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference. The locksmith has to get in and not damage or fix any damage. They can just
Exactly.
break in and walk away from it.
Exactly, and I find that a lot of people with just the traditional deadbolt with a latch, I find that if you're looking at the multi-point lock mechanism and then the deadbolt's level of security is really, really minimal because it's locking in one place, in one place on the door, and you probably know where that place exactly is by looking at the handle. So if I was to kick that place in the door, chances are I'm going to break that one pressure point very quickly. Whereas a multi-point lock, if it's hooking in 3 or 5 places from the door to the door frame, that makes it a lot more difficult for any unsavoury types to just kick the door in.
You've only got to look at all the new builds. Every single new build nowadays, there's no wooden doors at all. They're all composite doors, UPVC doors, which they claim to be stronger, which they can be, but there are some wooden doors that are very strong as well. I mean, you only got to go anywhere in Europe and you won't see wooden doors. Well, you will see wooden doors, but you're not going to see most. They're going to be like metal doors or solid core doors. They're going to be, they're taking that step extra to go that one step higher to have steel doors and things like that. But obviously, yeah, of course, the more locking points, the better the door is going to be.
And I think that's also why it's super key that us and our fierce competitors out there in the smart lock industry really take into account the level of security that multi-point locks provide and make sure that we are doing our best to integrate with as many different multi-point locks as possible, so that if someone for example, our Slim series that a lot of people know, our bestseller, is multi-point lock compatible for 99% of the multi-lock mechanisms out there. I think that's something that all companies should be striving and aspiring to do better on, and that's giving the end user as secure a property as physically possible with the products that they provide.
Correct. Used as well, either sold secure or secure by design accredited products is always, because that's police preferred specification. So that's always a must when it comes to new builds, particularly.
Amazing. So Alex, as an experienced locksmith, and I ask this, of course, as a supplier of smart locks, what would you like to see from the industry of digital lock suppliers in the future to really create, that perfect security solution? What would that look like for you?
You might not like my answer. The price to come down.
Well, we could sell it for £5, but everyone would just get in through the back door. So,
again, it's a tricky. What would I like to see? Obviously, from my point of view, I need it to be secure. I don't want to have to go back to the job I don't have to go back every 5 minutes because something's not working. And I want it to look nice as well, because if it looks nice, the customer's going to want it, and as long as it's functional as well. So, I mean, at the moment, it seems to be ticking all those boxes.
What would be your dream feature? Like, if there was a feature that you could just
that's hands down. If it could make a cup of tea, that would be great.
Well, with all these smart homes and smart things around, it's not impossible, is it? As soon as you.
I would. My personal view on this is there's vast advancements in voice biometrics.
Okay.
So I would like in the near future a smart lock that I just speak to it and it recognizes my unique voice, and that will open the smart lock. So that is something that I am pretty sure is 12 months to 18 months down the line before someone launches that.
one of the features, the reason why some suppliers, companies, whatever, don't want to have their locks connected to Alexa and all the other smart speakers around the house is because some of them don't have that feature. So you don't want somebody just pop the letterbox open and just say, Alexa, open the door, and it's no problem, and it opens the door. That's
Yeah,
one of the
but
security features out there.
From personal experience, if I do it in my house, I have to give her a 4-digit PIN
Exactly,
code.
I've got the same thing as well.
Okay, yeah, but how many times does it change every day? Are you because
It's not. It's not a feature I use personally, but I think for someone that's handicapped or someone that has special needs, I think the integration with Amazon Alexa and Google and Matter and Apple, HomeKit is fantastic. But yeah, you definitely have to give like a 4-digit PIN code. Otherwise, like you say, through the letterbox, Alexa, open my front door.
Exactly.
Listen,
unfortunately, what you have to remember is that these kids nowadays, they're getting smarter and smarter with technology. You want to make sure that it's also future-proof as well. You don't want to make sure that somebody can just do a 2-minute online search and figure out how to get around these locks and stuff like that. That I don't think a lot of people don't address that enough. It really can be a security, cyber risk, or however you want to describe it. Because at the end of the day, technology is going to be everywhere, and kids will be getting smart and using it. So we need to make sure that these things can put up to it.
Absolutely, and this is something.
Also,
go on.
Also, I think playing devil's advocate, like phones, iPhone are releasing a new phone every 6 months. I understand business is business, and you have to make profits and sell more things. But it'd be good to have a smart lock that outlasts. That's good for a good 5 years. Something that's going to stay up to date. And that's going to look stylish for many, many years.
Yeah, because the last thing, you don't want to change your lock every couple of years just because it's not, out of fashion or not. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Good point.
I think that the voice recognition to open the door is a really interesting point. I see that there could be challenges, namely TikTok impressionists would become the best thieves you've ever seen, because they'd listen to this podcast and they'd just go up to your door and they'd say, "Open the door, please," and it would open.
That sounded just like him.
I know. I've been working on
that. There's significant advancements that I'm aware of that will recognise fraudulent voice techniques and genuine voices.
And
correct. The same as back in the day, the fingerprint, you could cut someone's finger off and use the fingerprint. Nowadays, it actually recognizes a pulse and a bloodstream on that actual fingerprint. So these advancements are happening, but they're happening very, very quickly nowadays.
Well, it used to be slow. I mean, we've had biometric technology for years and years, like 15, 20 years, but everyone was too afraid to put it on their front doors. We had biometric locks 15, 20 years ago, but they were expensive. They were too expensive. Nobody wanted to pay that price. And like I said, the tricks from James Bond films, where you put the little sellotape and you get the fingerprint on it. They used to work. They actually used to work on these locks. That's why people lost the faith in it big time. But more and more, I think nowadays people are a little bit more trusting in technology, and they are willing to have all this stuff on the on their properties to secure their livelihoods, basically.
And I think the onus is on companies like ourselves who are producing these smart locks to make sure that we're staying at the forefront of protecting the end user. So the point that you made about these kids getting smarter and being able to use these technologies. I mean, we're very, very proud of the fact that we've never had a reported hacking of our locks breaking, which is great. But that's, like you said, with everything moving in that direction, it's on us to make sure that we're keeping an eye on what people are able to do and counteracting that when we're in our manufacturing process.
Yeah, just for the benefit of the guests listening to this podcast, I mean, the app that comes with the locks, it has banking level encryption, so it's the same as your banking app. So you trust those to transfer money and do transactions. It's the same level of encryption.
Amazing. Yeah, great point. Fantastic. Yeah. So, I think that draws us towards the close of our first ever podcast, Behind the Key. We really hope that we were able to provide not only an enjoyable, but an informative podcast session. Please do stay up to date with our upcoming podcast dates. We have a very exciting guest next month as well, which is Leo Des, a very prominent figure in the digital lock industry, and that will be on the 13th of December. But for now, I would like to extend a massive thank you to Alex from All Time Locksmiths, who's taken the time out of his day to come in and give a really clear, down-to-earth, informative account on these questions for the end user to listen to and make their decision from.
No worries,
Indeed.
guys. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. And we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Key.
Bye.